everybody, welcome to We Chef. I'm Chef Laura. Today we're going to be making garlic knots. These are super delicious. We need to start by making our dough. So the first thing we have is I have some warm water here. This warm water, and it needs to be warm, not hot, but warm. The reason we have the warm water is this is going to help get our yeast activated. Our yeast, our dry yeast that I have in this little container, is essentially sleeping right now, and we need to wake it up and get it going right now so it can help our dough rise. So to do that, we need two things. We need warm water and we need a little bit of sugar. So I have 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of warm water in this container. I'm going to pour my yeast in there. This is 1/2 tablespoon of yeast as well as 1/2 tablespoon of sugar. We're gonna pour those in there, and then we're gonna give them a stir. So the yeast is all covered in water and the sugar. And then we're gonna let it sit for a little bit. Just like us, it needs a little bit of time to wake up. So in the meantime, we're going to measure our dry ingredients. So for this recipe, we are going to do 1.5 cups of flour. So I have 1/2 cup here. I'm gonna scoop, I'm gonna scrape across the top, and I'm gonna pour this into my bowl. I'm gonna scoop again, scrape across the top. Do that 3 times to get 1.5 cups. So 1.5 cups of flour. If you double the recipe, that would be 3 cups of flour. The thing I like about this dough is that this is actually my go-to pizza recipe dough, and you can use it for calzones as well. So this is a great versatile dough. Also, I have 3/4 tablespoon of salt, and then I need to grab my olive oil, and I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and there we go. I guess the olive oil is not really a dry ingredient, is it? But it's gonna go in now anyways. So our yeast had a little time to wake up. The yeast should look a little foamy on top. When you first put it in there, it's in these little pieces, and after sitting, it should look foamy. And when you smell it, you should get this really wonderful yeast smell, okay? So I'm gonna pour this into my dry ingredients. And then I'm going to put this on my mixer with my dough hook. Let's scoot this over here a little bit. So it's gonna go on the mixer with the dough hook attachment. I'm gonna turn this on, and we're gonna let this mix into a dough. My dough is almost done mixing. I have it on a high setting currently, and it needs to come together in one piece and move around the bowl in one piece. Now, I had to add an extra about tablespoon of water to my dough, just to get the dough to come together. So if you don't see your dough coming together into a ball after a couple minutes, don't be afraid to add a little more flour. However, add a very little at a time. So add a teaspoon or a tablespoon at a time. Don't just pour a bunch in there. It might look like it needs a lot, but it can go from wrong to wrong very easily. So I have this nice smooth piece of dough, and now this needs to rise. So I'm going to cover this with a piece of plastic wrap and put it in the warmest place in my kitchen, which is behind me on top of my oven. I'm just putting some plastic over the top of my bowl. I'm setting it up here in this warm location. I just had my oven on for something else a little bit ago, so there's nice heat coming off of it. Sometimes people turn on a hot shower in their bathroom, let their bathroom heat up. This dough should take about 45 minutes to an hour to double in size. So once it's done that, we'll start making the garlic knots. While our dough is rising, we are going to make the garlic butter Parmesan herby mixture that is so delicious, that is going to go into our dough to make these into garlic knots. So as you can imagine, we're going to be using lots of garlic for these. So I have 5 cloves of garlic. To prepare our garlic, I'm gonna take a large chef's knife and I'm just gonna press down slightly until I hear kind of a little popping noise on my garlic. And this just helps loosen the skin around the garlic a little bit to make it easier to pull off the garlic. Now, we can do two things with this garlic. We can chop it. So to do that, I'm gonna hold my knife parallel to my tabletop and cut through my garlic, going towards that end that had connected the garlic to the bowl. Then I'm going to cut the opposite direction, cutting lines the opposite way towards that end. Now I'm going to turn it back to its side and chop little pieces from there. So ultimately, if you're cutting with little kids, just help them the best they can to cut little pieces. And then you can, after they've done the best with their kid's knife to cut little pieces, you can go back in there with a big chef's knife and kind of chop it up a little bit more. Now, something else we can do is we can grate our garlic. This is a microplane, or you can use your kitchen grater, and we're just gonna push this garlic along the grater until it goes all the way through the back. And then we get nice little, we get it all collected on the back, and we have nice grated garlic that way. This is the easier, I would say this is a little bit easier. However, this grater can cut you. So you do still need to be careful, because if you're not, you can still end up with little cuts. Okay, so I have my 5 cloves of garlic chopped / grated. I'm gonna pick it up, whoops, and I'm gonna put it into my mixing bowl. I'm gonna get the little ends discarded. Okay. Let me just grab a paper towel, wipe off my hands. Now we are going to pick some rosemary and some thyme for this recipe. So this is my thyme. You should be able to find that at the grocery store. When I was working in kitchens, picking thyme had to be one of my least favorite activities. So we need about a tablespoon of chopped thyme. So this is a great thing. Have kids, you can help pick these little leaves off of the stems. We don't want to eat the stems, those don't taste good. So we're going to pick all those leaves off there. Then we're going to do the same with rosemary. So this is our rosemary. It kind of looks like an evergreen / Christmas tree. Okay, so thyme and rosemary. You should be able to find those relatively easily. I picked my rosemary and my thyme. It smells amazing. And now I'm gonna chop this up. We want these in little pieces. So I'm gently taking my knife through the herbs. Now, for little kids, you can just pick these apart into smaller pieces, and then your parents can give them the chop they need. And again, we are not on a cooking competition show, so we don't need to be going totally crazy cutting through our herbs. But we want some nice small pieces. So every now and then I clean up my knife, I redo my pile, and then I go back at them. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I want 2 tablespoons. Sorry, let me grab my tablespoons to make sure I have enough. Super, 1 tablespoon. That looks like that's gonna be about perfect. I'm gonna set that down and perfect. 2 tablespoons of our rosemary and our thyme. So I have my 5 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of chopped rosemary, chopped rosemary and thyme, so 1 tablespoon of each if you're doing them separately. I have 6 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna give this a good solid pinch of salt. That was I'm holding it with a couple fingers, pinch of salt. And then I have 8 tablespoons of softened butter. So I took this out this morning when I got here, and then I actually microwaved it for 8 seconds to make sure that it was nice and soft. So now I'm just gonna take these and I'm going to mush them together until all those herbs, all that Parmesan, it is all mixed in to that butter. So good. Whoops, that guy wants to escape. Not going to happen. So yeah, there we go. So a nice soft butter mixture with the Parmesan and herbs and salt. Okay, I'm gonna take my dough out of my bowl and we're gonna roll this now. Have some dusting flour. Lay my dough down, a little flour on top. Now I'm gonna roll, and I want this to be relatively a rectangle and pretty thin. So I roll and then I kind of pull to keep it in that rectangular shape a bit. And of course it doesn't have to be perfect, but we want it to be good though. Okay, we're almost there. It doesn't take a lot. Okay, so I have my nice, pretty good rectangle there, okay? So then I'm going to take half of this delicious garlicky, herby butter mixture, about half of it, and I'm going to put it on my dough. Then I'm going to spread it on just half. So it's like almost like I have a line down the middle. I actually crossed my line. Line down the middle of my dough, going this way. And I'm going to spread this butter with a spatula, an offset metal spatula. I'm gonna spread this butter all over the bottom part of my dough in a nice even layer, as much as you can do. We want it everywhere, from corner to corner. So I'm gonna spend some time making sure that happens because this is so yummy and we want it in every single bite. Okay, that should be good. And I'm gonna get the rest of that off just by smearing it across the top. Then I'm gonna take this top part and fold it down over my other half, okay? Then I'm gonna give this just a tiny roll to widen it a little bit. Just a tiny roll, not a huge thing. Now I'm gonna cut strips of dough from here. They are about 1/2 inch wide. Okay. And that one. Okay, guys, so now we need to make these into knots. So I'm gonna take this and kind of twist it. Then I'm going to literally tie it in a knot. Now the knot is going to be loose, so you can stretch it a little bit if you need a little more space to make the knot. Twist it up, and then again, just gently tie it in a knot with that end that you're pushing through, just tucking through the dough. And you can also just tie them in a knot if you want to skip the twisting part. The twisting part just gives it a nice little appearance. I have all these tied in knots now, so I'm going to place them on a parchment lined sheet tray. I was able to get 16. These aren't huge. These aren't supposed to be like enormous enormous rolls, okay? So I'm going to get 15 on here, which is gonna make me a little crazy because I have this 16, but that's okay. So we're gonna put these on here. These are gonna go into these are going to go into a 375-degree oven until they're golden brown. Now, with this other half of our butter that we have left behind, I'm sure you were wondering why I was leaving that behind, that is going to go into a saute pan, and we are going to melt that while these are in the oven so that when they come out, we can brush the rest of that buttery goodness onto our rolls. My garlic knots have finished cooking, or baking, so I'm gonna take them out of the oven. As you can see, they have a nice golden, nice rich golden brown color on them. And then I have my melted butter, garlic, and herb mixture that I'm just gonna brush across the top of them. Now, if you have kids and you want them to brush this on, or for kids who are watching this and are going to do this on their own but are a little bit older, you can do two things to kind of make this a little bit safer. You can pour this butter garlic mixture into a new bowl and take it out of the hot pan so it's not going to burn anybody. And then you can also pull this piece of parchment, or if you're baking on a silicone mat, you can pull it off and just put it on the table so the hot tray is no longer on the counter, and so that can't burn them either. So I'm just putting a nice little bit of butter on all this, making sure I get a little cheese on top of there. I'm a huge cheese fan. So I'm making sure in each of those little scoops of the butter mixture, I'm getting some of that Parmesan cheese. And this is gonna finish off these garlic knots, and they are going to be delicious. So I just wanna give you a little close up to one of those. So thank you for being with me. It's so fun to have you with me, and I look forward to you joining me on my next video. Take care, bye-bye.